They were the picture of success, a perfect couple admired by everyone. But what looked like a fairy tale would soon turn into one of the most shocking crimes in Boston's history. A story of love, greed, and betrayal that would leave an entire nation stunned. Welcome to Midnight Hour. Don't forget to subscribe and press the like button to receive all the real scary and strange stories. Charles Stewart was a successful manager for a company specializing in leather and furs. Charles loved a girl named Carol DeMighty. Carol was a very, very famous lawyer. They met in 1980 when Charles and Carol were working at a restaurant. He was a waiter and she was a hostess. They were working during the period of completing her studies to cover expenses. After working at this restaurant, he obtained a football scholarship because he was skilled and had great physical fitness, and he launched into his successes until he obtained his degree. But Carol was continuing her law studies, and indeed, after they graduated, each one began succeeding in their field. He founded a company for himself, and it was successful. Carol became a successful lawyer. Then, Charles and Carol got married. After 4 years of marriage, Carol became pregnant and decided to take leave to raise the child. In 1989, in the last months of the pregnancy, Charles and Carol were attending educational and guidance classes about childbirth and how to care for the baby because this was their first child. They went as usual to this class. On their way back home, they passed through one of the neighborhoods in this state of Boston. They stopped at a traffic light, and here the story begins. What happened? Charles was driving the car with Carol next to him. They were stopped at the light when suddenly a black-skinned man attacked them. This man looked terrifying, huge, with a terrifying voice. Charles was scared of him and even more scared for Carol, especially since she was about to give birth. He surrendered and said to this person, he thought this person just wanted to rob them and ride with them in the back. He said, "Drive," and Charles said, "Okay." They drove a distance until they stopped in one of the areas that was a bit sparsely populated. This was the place the attacker demanded they go, and they obeyed his orders. As soon as they arrived, he told them, "Give me everything you own." And indeed, Charles took out everything he had and gave it to him, even Carol. As soon as he robbed them and finished, he got out of the car, opened the driver's door, and Charles came out with a gun and shot Carol in the head. Charles was shocked. He thought this person just wanted to take his money and rob them. Then he turned and shot Charles, hitting him in the abdomen. This criminal thought the couple had died and fled, but Charles did not die. He managed to get out of the car and tried to reach their phone and called the police. He called right away. They answered him. He said, "I'm about to pass out, but my name is Charles and my wife's name is Carol, and she's in her last month of pregnancy. A black-skinned man shot my wife in the head and she's not moving. I was shot in my stomach, I think, with a bullet, and I think I'm about to die." Right away, the police came and headed to the location. They found the car there indeed. Charles was lying on the ground, the driver's door opened, and he was lying on the ground, and Carol died inside the car. They took them to the hospital. As soon as they entered the operating room, the doctor told them, "I don't guarantee he'll live. 90% he'll die, but I'll try." And indeed, he performed a surgery that lasted hours, and they tried to save him until they managed to stabilize his health. Carol died, but when they rushed her to the hospital, they said, "We can save the fetus." Indeed, when they took out the fetus and performed resuscitation, his heart started beating and so on, and they tried to put him under the machines, but after several hours, he also died. Charles woke up after 2 or 3 days and heard the news, and he said, "Just bring me the detective. Let me give him some information." By coincidence, when the police went to the crime scene location where the car was and the place where the crime occurred, a crew from the TV series 911 was with them. This is a very old, well-known, and famous series. This filming crew would be with them and film all the events and bloody scenes and the crime scene and such. And this crew filmed the crime that happened to Charles' family and broadcast it on official television. And people sympathized greatly with Charles and Carol, who died, and their child, who came into the world and died immediately. And the love story that was between Charles and Carol, and the entire society began supporting Charles so that he gets his right from this criminal and that the criminal is caught. In addition, they developed hatred toward black people, especially since they were African Americans, especially in the neighborhoods where they lived, where crimes were rampant, so the hatred toward them increased. The police arrested more than one dark-skinned person until they arrested a man named Alan Swanson. Now, this Alan was a homeless person without shelter. He was wearing the same tracksuit that Charles described for the criminal. But this was the closest to the charge because the clothing we found him wearing matched the victim's specifications that he provided, and he denies the charge and says he has nothing to do with it. Several months passed, and they arrested someone on charges of shooting. This one's name is Willie Bennett. Willie Bennett has a very long criminal history in fights, armed robberies, threats, assault, and theft. And when the police showed his picture to Charles, he said, "Yes, this is the one who attacked us. This is the one who killed my wife Carol and shot me and kidnapped us." The police arrested Willie Bennett and put him in prison to present him to the court, and he denies the charge. Public opinion entirely turned against him. But something unexpected happened and changed the course of the case. Matthew, Charles, the victim's brother, went to the police and confessed, saying, "The real killer is my brother Charles himself." The shock was horrifying. Matthew recounted that Charles planned the crime meticulously. He was drowning in debt, cheating on his wife, and wanted to obtain her huge life insurance. He lured her that night, shot her himself, and then shot himself to appear as a victim. As for Matthew, he was just a tool in his plan. He helped him hide the evidence and throw the weapon into the river. When Charles learned that his brother had confessed to everything, he fled from the hospital and left a short note. "I can't face what I did." Then he jumped from the top of a Boston bridge, ending his life. Willie Bennett was released after his reputation was destroyed, while Matthew collapsed into a spiral of addiction and ended up homeless until he died from an overdose. Do you think Charles planned everything from the start, or did greed slowly take over his mind? If you were the detective on this case, what clue would have made you doubt Charles's story? Share your opinion in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell to receive the latest mystery stories from midnight. A girl named Karen Ring, 19 years old, an outstanding student with great ambition. She applied to the university, got accepted, so her father and mother had to accompany her to the city where the university was located. They enrolled her in the university, everything was fine, and they rented her an apartment in a house close to the university so she could walk there and back easily. After they felt reassured about their daughter, they left her and returned to their city. The girl started her first semester of studies. She was happy, excelling, smart, and enjoying herself. She made friends with some female students, and things went smoothly for 2 or 3 months. One day, as she was leaving the university and walking back home, a man noticed her. She caught his eye. He started following her, wanting to find out where she lived, especially since he noticed she walked home alone. He followed her until he knew her residence and waited for days to confirm whether she lived with other students, her family, or alone. He found out she lived by herself. Then came the day he planned to carry out his act. He followed her from the university until she got home. A few minutes later, he knocked on her door. The girl opened it. "Yes, please." He said, "I'm a traveling salesman. There's a system here where traveling salesmen, like company delivery guys, sell household items, brushes and such. They knock on doors and show catalogs or samples." He started showing her things. The girl said, "I don't need anything like that. I live alone and..." He said, "Okay, just make sure. Is anyone else in the house with you?" She said, "No, there's no one." He said, "That's exactly what I needed. Please, just..." The girl didn't understand. He was trying to confirm if anyone was inside. She said, "No, and I don't want anything." "Thank you, that's enough, please leave." He said, "No, it's fine, just a few seconds. I won't take long. Let me just show you some samples. You don't have to buy it." After insisting and making her feel embarrassed, she said okay. He entered the living room. As soon as he stepped in, he turned, closed the door, locked it, and attacked her. The moment she saw him lunge, she fought back fiercely, especially since she was raised conservatively, would never accept such a thing, and was a virgin. That was his goal, to assault her. She resisted with all her strength, but he was stronger and gradually overpowered her. Still, she refused to let him touch her. When he got tired and frustrated from how much she hit and fought him, and she started screaming, he feared exposure. He pulled out the knife he had and began stabbing her repeatedly. Then he slit her throat to make sure she was dead. He realized he was in deep trouble. She would report him if he left her alive, and he'd be exposed. He thought, "Let me finish her off here." After committing murder, something he never intended, his plan was only assault. He saw the blood, felt sick, couldn't go near her, and left the crime scene after trying to hide some evidence or fingerprints. He fled. A day passed on Karen's body. No one noticed. Her family tried calling the apartment. No answer. They called the landlord. He said, "I haven't seen the girl, but let me check on her." He knocked. No response. The next day, he knocked again. Since her parents lived in another city, the landlord went to the university himself and asked. They said she attended the day before, but not that day. He was puzzled. He returned to the apartment, knocked repeatedly, looked through the windows, and noticed, through small gaps in the curtain, that Karen was lying on the floor. He couldn't see clearly, but something was wrong. He alerted the police, who arrived, broke down the door, and found Karen's lifeless body. More than 2 days had passed. Decomposition had begun. They informed her family, who collapsed upon learning their daughter had been murdered. The investigation began. The real shock hadn't come yet. They lifted fingerprints and evidence, removed the body, questioned the landlord, tried to find out if she had friends, summoned some classmates, investigated, searched, and searched until they were exhausted. For Karen's family, the pain was unbearable. It's something that makes you unable to go on living from the rage. That's what happened to Karen's parents. They appeared on TV, pleading, "Please, anyone with information about this person, just help us catch him. We'll tear him apart with our teeth. Just get us to this criminal." It was useless. They brought in forensic evidence from other cities and a specialized cold case team. They relifted fingerprints with extreme precision until they found one. They traced it to a person with a criminal record. His name was David Stephen. He had prior convictions for theft and assault. His file and fingerprints matched. They arrested him. He confessed immediately. "I didn't mean to kill the girl. My intention wasn't murder. I just wanted to assault her, rape her, but she wouldn't let me. Honestly, I got scared she'd expose me. She fought, so I stabbed her, then slit her throat. That's it." He confessed to everything and reenacted the crime scene. While reenacting, judges, prosecutors, forensic experts, and officers present, they watched him. They said, "Go on." He said, "That's it. I slit her throat and left." They said, No, keep going." He said, "Keep going with what?" They said, "Something's missing. You know it, and we know it." He said, "Guys, that's all I did. I confessed. Sentence me." They said, "We know, we will. But what did you do after killing her?" He said, "Nothing, I'm telling you. I left immediately. I was scared." They said, "You assaulted her." He said, "What?" They said, "After killing her, you raped her." girl was a virgin, then she wasn't. You assaulted her while she was dead. He said, impossible. I never touched her. They said, you killed her anyway. He said, yes, but when I saw the blood, her body was covered in it. I never intended murder. It was my first time killing. The situation shook me. I panicked, realized I did something huge, and fled. They kept pressing. And then you assaulted her? He said no. He told them, if I had, I'd admit it. What's the difference? You're executing me anyway. I didn't do it. They said, fine, fine. Why were they so sure David raped Karen after her death? They found semen inside her body, and the medical examiner confirmed the assault occurred post-mortem. Yet David Stephen confessed to everything except the rape. He insisted, not that, I didn't do it. They said, come on. They took him to court. He was sentenced to death. This was 1983. It took 5 years. David went to Central Prison to await execution. But questions remain about the rape. David denied it. Even in prison, after 6 months, they sent an inmate, an undercover informant, to his cell block to gain his trust. The informant listened. David retold the story, how he entered, how he killed her, etc. When he got to the end, I slit her throat and fled. The informant said, so you didn't assault her? David said, no, man, how could I? Her body was covered in blood. How could I even think of it? The investigators were stunned. Even without judges present, he stuck to the same story. No assault. Then who raped her? She had no relationships. Her parents confirmed she was a virgin and would never consider such things. The autopsy confirmed the assault was post-mortem. So who did it? This drove them crazy. In the 1980s, DNA and semen analysis were weak, but in 2008, DNA technology leaped forward. It was used to re-examine old cases with stunning success. They remembered Karen's case, and the prisoner, David Stephen, still on death row, denying the rape despite clear evidence. They said, pull the file. They retrieved the preserved semen from Karen's body, David's sample, and all evidence. They retested everything with DNA in 2008, decades later. Brace yourself, it's sensitive. The sample from the body matched a man previously arrested for drug possession. His name, Kenneth Douglas, around 50 years old. He'd been jailed for drugs years earlier. They had his DNA on file. When they tested the semen from Karen's body, it matched him. They were shocked. Confirm it. They did, twice, 3 times. It was Kenneth Douglas. They arrested him. Do you know Karen Ring? No. Did you ever live in the city near the university? No. They dug into his life. He never left his hometown. Was a homebody, introverted. Everyone knew him. He was married, had kids and grandkids. What connection to Karen? No prior sex crimes, no harassment, nothing, except drug use in his youth. One investigator, puzzled, asked, "You worked and retired?" "Yes." "Where?" "The bombshell. I worked at the Hamilton County Morgue in America." They were floored. The morgue where Karen's body was taken. He worked there. He assaulted her corpse at his workplace. The shock, he admitted it. Karen wasn't his first. She might have been victim number 99. The news caused a massive uproar. The story exploded. Families of victims whose bodies were desecrated by this man, not David, protested and sued Hamilton County. It didn't stop there. Through interrogating Kenneth, his wife, and co-workers, they learned everyone knew Kenneth drank alcohol inside the morgue and used cocaine. He'd been arrested for drugs before. He celebrated before and after work, but no one knew what. He was obsessed. Even his wife testified. One day she picked him up from work and found him drunk after being at work all day. She called the morgue manager. "How do you let Kenneth drink and use drugs at work?" I want you to counsel him." The manager snapped, "Please don't call here again." Her testimony in court strengthened the family's lawsuit. The court ruled Hamilton County and the morgue pay the victims' families $800,000. They issued a default judgment against Kenneth for $2.5 million, which he couldn't pay, plus life imprisonment. The case snowballed. They reopened every similar case. David, who killed Karen, insisted, "I tried to assault her, killed her, slit her throat. I deserve death even if I'm innocent of the rape." But in other cases, men were serving life or 20 years for rape. They denied it, and DNA proved they were innocent. The real rapist? Kenneth, the morgue worker. Many wrongful convictions were overturned. Do you think someone who confesses to a crime should always be believed? Or can fear make an innocent person confess to something they didn't do? Tell me your opinion in the comments. In a remote village in Henan, an elderly woman with limited mobility lived with her son, 𝐿i, who supported her and his own children. Yang, 13 years old, and Li Yang, 9 years old. One morning, after her son hadn't visited for 3 days, she entered his home in worry. She found him and their 2 boys lying in a single bed, each with a deep crater in their foreheads. They were all dead. The cow the son tended remained locked in its shed, unable to graze, signaling the abrupt halt of daily routine. The elderly couple Yang Ping and Chan Lanjing. Soon after, in another Henan village, the elderly couple Yang Ping, around 70, and Chan Lanjing met the same fate. The intruder broke in at night, killed the husband, and raped the wife either before or after her death. They were discovered in nearly the same bloody tableau that had shocked the first village. In October 2002, in a Henan village, Yang entered a modest home where 34-year-old farmer Fu Chang worked. He struck Fu Chang from behind, killing him instantly, then murdered the man's 6-year-old daughter and raped his pregnant wife, Shen Hua. The pattern? Isolated peasant homes, nighttime entry. Hammer, axe, or similar blunt weapon. Total annihilation of everyone present, often accompanied by the rape of the women. Who was Yang Xinhai? Born on July 17, 1968, in Zhumadian, Henan, to one of the poorest families in the village. The youngest of 4 siblings, he was intelligent but withdrawn. He left school in 1985 at age 17. He drifted as a day laborer, accumulating pressures, poverty, feelings of inferiority, social isolation. His first recorded crime was burglary in 1988, followed by another in 1991, then a 5-year prison sentence in 1996 for sexual assault. After release, he began his mass murder spree from 2000 to 2003, using a bicycle to move between provinces, linking him to 67 murders and 23 rapes. Childhood and early schooling. Yang Xinhai was born on July 29, 1968, in an extremely poor village in Henan Province, China. The youngest of 4 children in a family that barely scraped by, his father was a simple field laborer, his mother kind but overwhelmed by poverty's cruelty. From early childhood, he was silent and reclusive, preferring solitude over peers. Yet, he displayed striking intelligence and talent in drawing and writing. He would sit for hours beneath a tree, sketching fantastical creatures and dark worlds where a single recurring hero, a man, brutally slaughtered enemies and escaped punishment. In school, he was an odd student. He never joined games, rarely spoke to classmates, yet completed assignments with meticulous precision. Poverty remained a nightmare. While classmates brought meal tickets for hot cafeteria food, Yang foraged wild plants from the school's edges, boiling them for sustenance. This sense of deprivation and humiliation drove him deeper into silence and internal aggression. The Dark Sketchbook. One day, his parents noticed he spent excessive time locked in his tiny room. When they opened the notebook he guarded carefully, they were horrified. Dozens of pages filled with murder and blood, men crushed by hammers, women bound and tortured, all rendered with eerie artistic precision and calm. At the center of the chaos was a recurring faceless lone man who killed and vanished into darkness. Confronted by his father, Yang replied in a cold voice, "It's a world where no one can punish me." From that day, fear crept into his parents' hearts. It wasn't mere artistic talent, but a reflection of a mind brewing something deeper, repressed violence cloaked in fantasy. High school and the turning point. In 1985, his father sent him to live with wealthier relatives in a nearby town to continue secondary education, hoping for a better environment. The opposite occurred. At his relative's home, Yang was treated as a servant, not kin, forced to gather firewood, clean, cook, in exchange for being allowed to eat. He never sat at their table. At school, humiliation intensified. Students mocked his ragged clothes and poverty. He could no longer bear it. He began hating everyone, the rich, society, life itself. He stopped attending classes regularly, disappearing for days in the mountains or beside rivers, carving faceless faces into rocks. He returned to his village broken, whispering to his mother, "Some live to eat, others live to hate." The love story that ignited hell. After years drifting between temporary jobs, construction worker, night guard, cook, he met a kind, gentle girl from a neighboring village and loved her intensely. She was the only light in his life. He promised a marriage upon release from a brief 1991 prison term for petty theft. She visited and wrote encouraging letters. "Be patient, Yang. When you're out, we'll marry and start anew." On release day, he emerged in old prison clothes, heart full of hope, only to learn she had married another man in his absence. That moment shattered something irreparably. Love turned to all-consuming hatred for women and anyone living happily. He later confessed, "From that day, I realized the world deserved fire." After the late 1990s release, Yang no longer sought steady work. Small thefts, kitchen tools, chickens, pigeons, temporarily eased need but never filled his inner void. Gradually, thefts morphed into sexual assaults, then murders. These behavioral leaps indicate escalating aggression. Perpetrators grow bolder, less concerned with consequences, as the urge for control and gratification overrides fear of punishment. Yang did not choose victims randomly. He targeted isolated homes in poor villages, sparse population, reduces rapid response chances. Impoverished families, less likely to trigger swift police attention compared to urban cases. Nighttime entry, usually while victims slept. Surprise attacks minimized resistance and maximized completion. Powerful, fast kill tools, hammer or similar blunt instruments for instant or near-instant death. Frequent combination of murder and sexual assault, indicating motives blending sexual drive with total domination. Yang was meticulous about leaving no trace. Wore socks over shoes or swapped footwear to obscure footprints in muddy soil. Changed appearance by stealing victims' clothes for disguise and confusion. Traveled across provinces to prevent authorities from easily linking incidents, especially given poor inter-district police communication at the time. This caution initially made crimes appear unrelated. As incidents multiplied, village life transformed. Doors stayed locked, women avoided nighttime outings, families slept with eyes open. Rumors spread like wildfire. False names circulated, innocents were arrested under public outrage. Cases like the wrongful detention of 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐿 and 𝐸𝐮 highlight the cost of mistaken accusations. Psychological summary of this phase. Childhood drawings. Early projection of repressed violence and sadistic fantasy. School and poverty. Instilled permanent inferiority, later morphing into hatred for anyone possessing anything. Emotional betrayal. Snapped his last thread of empathy, converting pain into vengeance. Social isolation. Paved the way for a psychological disorder blending aggression, partial schizophrenia, and antisocial personality disorder. Forensic psychological analysis. Revenge motive against society. Some sources say his girlfriend's abandonment drove him to take revenge on everyone. Upbringing in poverty, powerlessness, prior incarceration, bred nihilism and detachment. Bloodlust. He claimed whether victims deserved life was irrelevant. He simply wanted to kill more. Methodical execution. Chose isolated, poor homes. Concealed traces. For example, oversized shoes or socks to mask prints. Blend of rape and mass murder. Indicates evolution from theft or assault to systematic annihilation, pointing to severe personality disorder and possibly murderous narcissism. Police profiled him as intelligent, reclusive, socially marginalized, returning home only when necessary. From late 2000 until August 2003, roughly 4 years, a great many peasants in 4 rural Chinese provinces lived through a terror they had never known before. In those years, an unknown man slipped into homes at night, slaughtering men, women, and children without exception, using tools like hammers or shovels. Everyone would be asleep. Then, come morning, they'd find the doors forced open, the windows plugged with wooden blocks, and blood smeared across the bedroom floors. Police began receiving repeated reports, but each incident was in an isolated village, communications were slow, and mobilizing security forces took time. The victims were from Boer families, which made the cases lower priority for some, and with no clear evidence, the killer lost much of his fear. As the numbers climbed, a fixed pattern emerged. A rural house, a nighttime attack, every family member killed or assaulted, almost never a survivor. The death toll was estimated at 67, with numerous rapes of both children and women alike. Police mobilized, began monitoring movements, sharing information across provinces, offering rewards. Yet as long as the killer moved quickly, left no clear prints or direct witnesses, the trail remained thin. Some crimes were even initially pinned on innocent local suspects because of public pressure. And he chose people who had disputes with others so the police would suspect them. On November 3, 2003, the game changed. A suspicious man sleeping in a public bath near an amusement park caught a local employee's eye due to erratic behavior. Police arrived, found a knife and small cash amount on him, took a DNA sample, and it matched evidence from multiple crime scenes. Yang was detained. Ensuing interrogations yielded chilling confessions. In questioning, Yang admitted 67 murders and 23 rapes between 1999 and 2003, numbers that shook China and the world. He described some incidents with cold detachment, explaining how his killing urge grew over time. Investigations connected the crime signature across 4 provinces, leading to trial. Legal proceedings began in early 2004. The court convicted him on all charges and denied appeal. Execution was carried out on February 14, 2004. His story ended, but the terrifying legacy of his crimes lingered in entire villages' memories. Was Yang a victim of the poverty and society that marginalized him? Or did everything he did spring from an inner darkness no deprivation could justify? Should his parents have paid attention to his drawings from the start? Could those dark sketches have been a cry for help before they turned into real-life nightmares? Share your opinion in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell to receive the latest mystery stories from Midnight Hour.